the greatest moves of God in the Old Testament was the freeing of the people of Israel from the hands of the Egyptians or from slavery. I just imagine being alive at that time. You see, these people, they witnessed with their own eyes some of the greatest miracles ever known to man. We're still talking about these miracles today. There's hundreds and thousands of sermons that have been preached regarding the miracles that were witnessed during this moment in history. And so these people, they walked as God was moving. They lived through this movement of God. But when you read the story, you'll realize that as they were going through it, they failed to recognize the season they were in. They could not see what God was doing right in front of them. And so with that being said, if you have your Bible or Bible app, go ahead and turn to Numbers chapter 11, verse number 1. If you don't have your Bibles, you can follow along up on the screen. If you are using the YouVersion Bible app, we have all of the notes within there, so you can follow along there as well. So Numbers chapter 11, verse number 1. Here's what it says. Soon the people began to complain about their hardship, and the Lord heard everything they said. Then the Lord's anger blazed against them, and he sent a fire to rage among them, and he destroyed some of the people in the outskirts of the camp. Then the people screamed to Moses for help, and when he prayed to the Lord, the fire stopped. After that, the area was known as Taberah, which means the place of burning, because fire from the Lord had burned among them there. Then the foreign rabble who were traveling with the Israelites began to crave the good things of Egypt. And the people of Israel also began to complain, "Oh, if we just had some meat to eat. We remember the fish we used to eat for free in Egypt. We had all the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, garlic we wanted, but now our appetites are gone. All we ever see is this manna." The manna looked like small coriander seeds, and it was pale yellow like gum resin. The people would go out and gather it from the ground. They made flour by grinding it with hand mills or pounding it in mortars. They boiled it in a pot, made it into flat cakes. These cakes tasted like pastries baked with olive oil. The manna came down on the camp with the dew during the night. Moses heard all the families standing in the doorways of their tents, whining. I love that word whining in there. And the Lord became extremely angry. Moses was also very aggravated. So Moses just has it. So Moses says to the Lord, "Why are you treating me, your servant, so harshly? Have mercy on me. What did I do to deserve the burden of all these people? Did I give birth to them? Did I bring them into the world? Why did you tell me to carry them in my arms like a mother carries her nursing baby? How can I carry them to the land you swore to give their ancestors? Where am I supposed to get meat for all these people? They keep whining to me saying, 'Give us meat to eat.' God, I can't carry all these people by myself. The load is far too heavy. If this is how you intend to treat me, just go ahead and kill me. Do me a favor and spare me this misery." I'm calling this message this morning, Eyes to See. Father, for the next few moments, I ask that you would give me the mind of Christ, the anointing, God, to present this great truth from your word in a way that's easily understood, that will change us and transform us forever. God, today, if you don't anoint me, Lord, these words will fall flat. They will be void. But God, if you anoint me, these words will change lives. Not because of what I say, but because of, God, the way you move and what you have spoken. And so, God, we thank you for it today. In Jesus' name, amen. Years ago, we pastored in Colorado. I was a children's pastor at that time. I got a call one day from the University of Northern Colorado, which is the university there in Greeley, which is where we were. And they told me that they were remodeling an entire building, a very large building of dorm rooms. And they said, "We're looking to donate the furniture that's coming out of these dorm rooms." There's things like sofas, love seats, chairs, beds, etc. Hundreds of pieces of furniture. The guy that called me said, "Man, we've got so much furniture, we can easily fill 3 semi-loads full of furniture." He said, "We've heard about the work that you guys are doing here in our community, and we would like to bless you and give you one of the semi-loads full of furniture. He said, we have a couple of other organizations that are going to be partnering as well, and they're each going to take a semi. And so between you three, you can each have a semi-load full of furniture. He said, the only thing that I ask is this Saturday, we're going to be unloading everything, is that you find your own semi-trailer, and we will give you the furniture to load up into the trailer. I told him, well, man, I'll tell you what, let me see what I can do. I hung up the phone. When I got off the phone, I just simply prayed and asked God. I said, God, if you want us to have this furniture to bless people, then you're going to have to open the doors, because right now I have no semi. I don't know how to get a semi, and I have no building to put the stuff in. So I don't, you're going to have to create a miracle, God, if you want us to have this furniture. So I figured it wasn't going to happen. I honestly figured it was a long shot, but you know what? I'll try and see what I can do. So I called a guy in the church I knew had his own semi truck, tractor trailer. He didn't have his own trailer, so to speak, but he had his own tractor. He had his own truck. So I called him and I told him the situation. I said, hey, we have this opportunity to get all this furniture from the college. They need a truck and a trailer, and so I know that you have a truck. You maybe have connections for a trailer. He said, well, let me see what I can do. He got off the phone. He called me back by the end of the day, and he said, all right. He goes, I found a guy in town that will loan us a semi-trailer. He goes, I'll pull it. He said, you can keep it for a month so you can figure out what to do with furniture. Because I had no clue what I was going to do with this furniture in this trailer. So he said, you can borrow it. You can keep it for a month. I said, okay. I called the guy back at the college and I said, we'll take it. And I hung up the phone and I said, dear God, what have I just done? I just agreed to a semi-load full of furniture and I have nowhere to put this stuff. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I don't even know how I'm going to give it away. The pastor is going to kill me for doing this, and he's going to refuse to do my funeral. So I remember going into his office. I remember this. I was nervous. And I went to my pastor's office and I told him the situation. And he just gave me that look, because that poor guy, I gave him a lot of stuff. I mean, I had a lot of ideas that I threw by him, a lot of crazy stuff that he had to deal with me. So anyway, but this is one of those times I'm telling him about this and I'm excited. And so he looks at me and finally says, all right, as long as you promise to get it out of here in a month. I said, okay. And I walked out and I had no clue what I was going to do. But God was opening these doors, so that's what I prayed for. So I figured that there was a plan. I just didn't know what it was. I was just wanting him to tell me the plan before I agreed to take the furniture. But I know that's usually not the way God works. And if you've been following God for a time, you've probably experienced that too. Oftentimes, God will ask you to move forward without having all of the answers. And it's as you move forward that He will begin to reveal His plan. And He will begin to give you answers as you walk by faith and step forward. If He always gave me all the answers ahead of time, it would require no faith. I'm sure you've seen this meme before. It's kind of funny, but you got the mom on the side says Holy Spirit, then you got you that are holding on for dear life. And God, I have a plan for your life. And that's what it feels like right there. You're scared to death, and the Holy Spirit's like, yeah, baby, let's go. So anyway, we showed up that Saturday morning. We had a team of volunteers. We had the semi-trailer there. The volunteers were all going to help us load the furniture into the truck. And as we're loading, two separate pickup trucks with guys in it pull up beside of us, one on the left and one on the right. I see them walk over to the guy from the college that's in charge of the entire project. And as they're talking to the guy that's in charge of this project, you can tell the guy's getting kind of irritated. And so after they finish their conversation, the guy that's in charge, he walks over to me, and you could tell he's a bit upset. And he says, I had 3 organizations lined up to take this furniture today. All 3 of you guys said you would show up with a semi-trailer. You were the only one that did. The other guys, they show up in them little pickup trucks expecting to take all this furniture. He said, I'm going to send them packing, and I want to give you all of it. Can you get me 2 more trailers? I said, and beads of sweat's coming on my head right now. I said, man, I really appreciate that, but this was my out. I said, but it was challenging just to just to find one. This was my closed door. I can't get one this soon. It was challenging to find the one. So he said, okay, hold on a minute. He goes, I'll be back. And he walks over and talks to some other guys. And with a few moments, he comes back over to me and he says, I talked to my supervisor. He said, I tell you what, if you will take all of the furniture, the college will rent 2 more trailers for you. You just have to have them emptied within a week. So my situation just went from 1 semi-trailer full of furniture that I had a month to empty to now 3 semi-trailers full of furniture that I had a week to empty. And I'm starting to sweat. I'm in over my head already. If I say yes to this, I'm digging my own grave. Everything inside of me is saying, do not take the furniture. And I looked at him and I said, giddy up, let's do it. I had no clue what I'm doing with any of this stuff. This is a true story. If you think I'm making it up, you can ask Kyla. I think Caleb was even there helping. And I'm just like, dear God, what am I going to do? And so we got everything loaded. It took several hours instead of just a couple. And the poor volunteers, I'm surprised they didn't just head off and say, this pastor is leading us right off a cliff. I'm out of here. But we got everything loaded. We got the trailers back to the church. And I remember parking them in the way back of the parking lot because hopefully my pastor doesn't see there's 3 trailers back there now because I only communicated one with him. Want to throw some tarps over them or something. Is there something big we can cover these things with? So the next morning, I'm kind of frantic. I'm asking everybody, hey, do you know if there's a warehouse somewhere? Is there a building somewhere? I just need a place to unload this furniture, man. I got a week. And I figured that if I don't have any answers by Friday, I'm just going to jump in my car and head to Canada. Just run away from it all. But in my mind, God, you gave us this furniture, so there's got to be a plan. And all 3, I just don't know what it is. So Monday morning, I never forget this. I got a call from a guy that worked with the city. He went to the church there. He went back to his supervisors, and he told them the situation. And he said, you know what, I've talked to my supervisors. The supervisors are aware of the work that the church does in the city. So he goes, we think we can help you. He said, we have an old skating rink in the north area of town that we're willing to let you use. He said, you can store everything in there, and you can give everything away right from that sidewalk. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, wow, what an answer to prayer. I did not see that coming. I'm packing my bags, getting ready to head to Canada, and here we go. So by the end of that week, we had everything unloaded in that old skating rink, and we had a couple days to spare to get those trailers back. And every weekend, a few of us would go over there, and we would move furniture out to the curb and with a sign that said free furniture. And then the word just began to spread, and families started to come from all over, and within a few months, it was completely gone. We were able to bless hundreds of families, and I found a picture of that old building because this will forever be a story that's etched into my mind. And we just stored everything in there. It's an old rundown building, and we would just pop those white doors open there, and just that sidewalk there, we would shove all these sofas and love seats and beds and all this stuff out there. People would just come and collect this stuff that didn't have furniture for their home. You know, we were in Colorado several years. I could tell stories like this all day. I've told you several of these stories over the year. But as a matter of fact, it was that very skating rink that the city would eventually come to us, and they offered us to give us that building to start a dream center there in the city. That's where the dream center vision I thought was originally going to happen, was right there. It was going to be in that building. They said, we just want to see a 20-year plan, so if you give us a 20-year plan, they said what we will do is we will lease that building to you for $1 a month, and then at the end of 20 years, if that building is doing what you say it's going to do, so we'll donate it to you. We'll just give it to you because we need a resource like this in our city that's going to help our city. And I remember the day I spent weeks writing this proposal to the city of the plan, and here's what we plan to do in 5 years, and then 10 years it'll look like this. And I spent weeks working on that, and the day I was supposed to turn that into the city, the lead pastor came in and told me that the board had a change of heart and they didn't want to submit the proposal. And today that building has been converted into a youth center now in that neighborhood, but I believe that was supposed to be the Dream Center. And if it would have been the Dream Center, we would probably still be in Colorado right now. But we had we had just amazing favor with the city. I could talk about the kids and the youth that came in that were changed by the power of God through our bus ministry. Some of them I'm still in contact with today. One young man messaged me a few years ago, said, man, just tell me that what God's doing in his life. And he was starting to lead a Bible study with other kids in the high school that he attended. And he just thanked me for taking the time to love him when he could give us nothing in return. Just a kid that we had coming in off of our buses. And I've told you this before, but I saw more miracles in that short time span than I've seen in my entire life up to that point. And I sit back and I think of everything God did during that season, and it truly amazes me. People are still talking about it today. However, it also breaks my heart because what I seen happen there was a great move of God. But it breaks my heart because even though I was right in the middle of it, I walked through it, God even used me to lead it, I failed to recognize it. And I look at what God is doing in this church right now, in this city. In Colorado, I watch God do an amazing work, but it is nothing in comparison to what I am seeing right now in this church and in this city. What we are watching unravel before our very eyes is special, and we get to be a part of it. I want you to know that stories will be told of what is happening right now. Some of you will tell your grandkids and your great-grandkids the stories of what God is doing right now in this place. Some of you will look back and you will say, do you remember that? Do you remember when we seen God do that? Those were the good old days. Have you ever thought about that? That these days right now, one day we will refer to as the good old days. The problem is for many of us is we don't recognize the good old days when we're walking through them. We don't recognize them until they're over. And this is true with anything in life. We oftentimes don't recognize the goodness of God when we're walking through it. Think about it. Someday you're going to be able to say, you know what? I remember the days there were no Jesus buses. I remember the days there was no food to hand out. I remember the days where there was no dream center. And now today, look at what God has done. And we are walking in a place where we get to be firsthand witnesses of a mighty move of God. But if we are not careful, even though we're right in the middle of it, we'll miss the whole thing. And I feel like God has given me personally another chance to be a part of something amazing where the masses will be saved and set free for the glory of God. I have seen more people set free for the glory of God in this church than I ever did in Colorado. And what God is doing here is truly amazing. He's given me personally another chance, another season of miracles to witness. And I don't want to miss it this time. This time I want to make sure I recognize the season that we're in. And so for me, this time, my prayer has become, God, give me eyes to see. Let's go back and take a look at Numbers chapter 11, verse 1, start to break this down a bit. Again, soon the people begin to complain about their hardship. The Lord heard everything that they said. Then the Lord's anger blazed against them, sent a fire to rage among them, and destroyed some of the people in the outskirts of the camp. People screamed to Moses for help, and when he prayed to the Lord, the fire stopped. After that, the area was known as Taberah, which means the place of burning, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. Here's the first way that we miss the move of God. It's by complaining. It's by always looking at the negative. See, in Colorado, we started running those buses. A few people in the church all of a sudden didn't like us anymore because they didn't want those kids in their church, and they didn't want those people in their church. And so what I noticed happening in myself is I started to develop what's known as a victim mentality. It's where I said, you know what, everyone's against me. Nobody likes me. And I began to whine and I began to complain. You know, when we carry the victim mentality, that's what we do, we complain. And if we're not careful, we can get 100 compliments and one negative comment, and the end of the day, we lay our head on the pillow, and the only thing we're thinking about is the one negative comment. And then we say, everyone's against me. And it's like we're completely ignoring everything God is doing. And that was me. I was so focused on the negative that I failed to see the miracles happening right before my very eyes. And if I could go back and give myself a word of advice, it would be this: Matt, wake up. I focused so much on the problems that it distracted me from what God was doing. And here's what I realized today. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be something else to fix. There's always going to be people that don't agree with you. There's going to be people that don't like you. We cannot allow this to take our eyes off of the bigger picture and of what God is doing right in front of us. If we complain about the piddly things that make no difference for eternity, we will miss the miracles happening right in front of us because our eyes are on the problem and not on God. And I made this mistake once. I don't want to make the mistake again. Right after we started running our buses in Green Bay here, I think it was the first couple months that we had run our buses. We were driving along in one of the neighborhoods, and I noticed there were 3 kids jumping up on the side of the road on the sidewalk by the side of the road there as we drove by. I thought they were trying to flag us down, so I stopped. And in nearly 25 years of driving bus, that's very common. You see kids out, they're trying to get us to pull over. They want to ride the bus, so they're jumping up and down. They're trying to flag us. And so we stopped. The mother's on the front porch. The kids are right there on the sidewalk by the road. And we get out. We're just briefly chatting with the kids, and then the leaders start heading up to talk to the mother. Next thing I know, the mother is yelling at her child to get inside. And as soon as she does that, it's almost like a panic. As soon as she does that, the other 2 kids take off running. And so the leaders get back on the bus, and they're like, man, I don't know what just happened, but that was strange. Come to find out, she called the police, and we hit the Green Bay Crime Reports Facebook page. And the thing just blew up. That is how we launched our Jesus buses. People were saying, we've got these new Jesus buses in town, and they're going around trying to kidnap children. I'm not kidding. I remember one comment, and they've got all the side windows dark. Well, if you know anything about a school bus, you know. But people were saying that. They're trying to kidnap children. I just want you to know, if your child is on my bus, I'm bringing them home. Trust me on that. They are coming home. It's kind of comical, though, to hear these comments, because just think about it. Can you imagine going out kidnapping kids on a vehicle that sticks out like a sore thumb that barely does 65 going down the highway? I mean, I just imagine the police officers. Yeah, we're going to need some backup here on the 41. We're high-speed chasing a Jesus bus barreling down. I want to tell you, I try to figure people out. I really do. I try to figure out how people think and why they think certain ways, but there are sometimes I'm just like, I don't understand. I'm sorry. I don't. Of course, people don't know the full story. A lot of the comments were extremely hurtful. If you remember, I've said this before. Here's our vision at Green Bay First. Our vision is to be the bridge of hope to the people of Green Bay and surrounding communities. Our vision is to be the bridge of hope. Not just another ordinary church taking up space on a corner lot, but a church that gets his hands dirty and helps solve the problems, the biggest problems our city is facing. A church that brings hope to the people living here. So if we want to be a bridge, we're going to have to understand that we're going to get walked on from time to time. It just comes with the territory. But a lot of the comments were very hurtful, and it really discouraged me. And I started to focus. I noticed myself going right back into my old habits, and I started to focus on the problems. I started to focus on the complaints. So to battle this, what I decided to do is I'm going to reach out to the lady that I met that was at that house that night. And I'm just gonna apologize to her. Not gonna try to say, hey, here's da 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 da. I'm just gonna apologize to her. I didn't mean to hurt you and offend you. We want to help people, not hurt people. So I'm just gonna apologize. I didn't feel like I did anything wrong, but so I apologized, and I remember her saying, "Thank you for what you guys are doing. I actually wish they had something like that when I was a kid." We cannot, and I'm talking to myself here, allow ourselves to focus on the complaints or the problem. If we do, we will miss the move of God that is unraveling right before our very eyes, and we will allow bitterness to take root in our heart. Now, that's an example of an external problem. But the internal problems, the internal complaints within a church, get much worse. Many churches are destroyed from the inside. I talked about that last week. But I am so glad that's not us. I'm so thankful for this church. And man, we've been through some stuff over the last few years, but we have been able to keep our focus on that which is most important, which is the human soul. But I guarantee you, if we fall into the trap of complaining, we will miss the move of God. Verse 4 again. Then the foreign rabble who were traveling with the Israelites began to crave the good things of Egypt. And the people of Israel also began to complain. "Oh, for some meat," they exclaimed. "We remember the fish we used to eat for free in Egypt. We had all the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, garlic we wanted. But now our appetites are gone. All we ever see is this manna." The manna looked like small coriander seeds, pale yellow like gum resin. People would go out and gather it from the ground, made flour by grinding it with hand mills, pounding it into mortars. They boiled it in a pot, made it into flat cakes. These cakes tasted like pastries baked with olive oil. The manna came down in the camp with the dew during the night. Here's the second way to miss the move of God. It's when you begin to focus on what you don't have instead of what you do have. It's a mindset of lack. Notice the people of Israel. We want fish. We want cucumbers. We want melons. We want leeks. We want onions. God, what you have provided for us, sure, we have manna, but the manna's not good enough for us anymore, God. We want something better. Now, I don't really need to explain this point. This is something I've talked about more than once. This is a truth that you can see woven all throughout the Bible. And I talked about this particularly when we talked about the letter F, which was feed and clothe the hurting. Every great move of God starts small. It starts with what we have in our hand. God is looking to see if we're going to be faithful with little before he gives us more. Remember this verse? Zechariah 4 and verse 10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." God is wanting to see the work begin. That's our part. We have a role to play. I've never been in a place of ministry, or in life for that matter, where I have ever had everything I've wanted. And I'm sure most of us in here have never had everything we've wanted. I've always been in a place where I've had everything I've needed to get the job done. We have to look what God's placed in our hand, and we have to use it and be faithful with it. We have to use what he's given us, and then he'll give us more. Many of us want to drive the Porsche, but God's waiting to see how you treat the Pinto he's given you first. If you don't know what a Pinto is, Google search it. It's a beautiful car. I'm going to get my wife one. She looks so cute driving it. She's laughing like I'm kidding, and I'm not. I'm serious. I'm going to get her one. But here's what happened. Let's personalize this a bit. Let's bring this down to the ground and let's make this personal. How many times do we look at social media and we see a husband smiling, we see a wife smiling, kids in the photo, they're smiling, everything looks beautiful. We see little animated hearts going off all over the place. And we look at that and we say, man, look at them. I wish I had a family like that. I wish I had a marriage like that. But what we don't see is the meltdown that happened just 30 minutes later when the kids started fighting over who gets the largest pizza. Or maybe we see the neighbor's house and it's a little bit nicer than ours. Maybe our good friend has a car that's a little bit nicer than ours, and we say, man, I sure wish I had a house like that. I sure wish I had a car like that. You see, what happens when we do this? Discouragement sets in. Even depression. And we start to get depressed. How does that happen? We're focusing on something we don't have. Rather than focusing on our family and being thankful for the marriage we have, we begin to focus on others, and we say things like, I wish I had a perfect marriage like that couple. And every marriage has problems. Paul himself said, if you marry, you will have trouble in this life. You don't see that on a cake anywhere, but that's just the truth. You're going to have trouble. There's no such thing as a perfect marriage. But rather than wishing we had someone else's life, what if instead we begin to focus on what we do have, on what God has already given us, and be thankful for that? and watch what happens. God, thank you for my marriage. Thank you for my children, that they are healthy. They're not at Disneyland, but they're healthy. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for the home that you have given us. It's warm in the winter, cool in the summer. Thank you, God, for the food that you've put on my table. You see, we can focus so much on what we don't have, we can completely miss the miracles that God is doing right in front of us. If you're always focusing on someone else's marriage and wishing you were like that or wishing you had this, you're going to miss the miracle that God's doing in your life. And I guarantee you, with that mindset, if you would ever get that, what you think you want, you're going to be looking to somewhere else wishing you had that. You see, it's okay to want, but we can't allow our want to lead to a complaining, bitter heart that's going to cause us to miss the move of God. So 2 ways you're going to miss a move of God. Apply this to the church, apply it personally in your own life. You will miss God moving in your own life if you do these 2 things. Number 1, complaining. You're always focusing on the problems. And number 2, focusing on what you do not have. Notice what both of these are. They both deal with focus. Simply put, you will miss the move of God in your life if your focus is wrong. It's our choice, and it's only our choice. Sam, if you could go ahead and come on up at this time. Of everything that we have seen come to pass already, I'm honestly saying this. If you remember 2 weeks ago when we talked about the letter H, I'd said 3 of the 5 things of the Vision 2040 we'd already started seeing come to pass within just the 6 years. So we've seen some amazing things happen. When you think back to how our food pantry started and the different things that we've seen and the miracles we've seen, it's truly remarkable. But despite all that, I don't think that I feel this, we have not seen anything yet. I believe that we're just getting started, and we are in new territory. We are in miracle territory, as my wife talked about to open this service, and now I'm going to close it. And I pray, my prayer is, God, I don't want to walk through the middle of this great move that you're doing and miss the entire thing. Likewise, I don't want you to miss the entire thing. I don't want you to miss what God's doing in your life personally. Rather than focusing on what you don't have, say, what can I be thankful for today that, God, you have blessed me with? And just focus on that. Don't miss what he's doing right in front of you. If I could have you bow your heads and close your eyes. God, we just want to thank you for this word. Holy Spirit, I believe that you're moving even now in this place. I know, God, I've messed this up more than once. I've complained. I have focused on what I don't have and said we can't do something because we don't have. And God, you've always made a way. So God, I just pray that, and I still fall into this trap from time to time. But God, I pray by the power of the Holy Spirit that as we do this and we start to get this mindset, God, that you would quicken within us this message this morning. God, that when we leave this place, we would leave with an attitude of thankfulness. God, I'm thankful for what you've given me. I'm thankful for what you've blessed me with. It might not be like the next person's. It might not look like that, but God, thank you for blessing me. Whatever the situation looks like, God, we want to see the good in it. So we thank you today for your faithfulness. In Jesus' name. I want you to keep your head bowed and your eyes closed.